What's up, YouTube? Today I'm going to show you 11 ways to make your R56 Mini Cooper S with the N14 engine more reliable. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and stick around. You're going to want to watch this whole video. Okay, one of the first things you're going to want to do to make your Mini more reliable, or your N14 specifically, is to make sure you change your oil about every 4,000 to 5,000 miles. I change mine. Sometimes I change mine as often as 2,000, depending on how I'm driving it. And you know, if I'm having other issues like oil leaks or stuff like that, I'll just change my oil every 2,000 miles instead of adding oil. But also another thing you should do, along with changing your oil every 4,000 to 5,000 miles, is whenever you get gas, maybe not every time, but every other time at the minimum, check your oil. Make sure you have, you're full, and keep, I always keep at least a quart of oil in my car. That way, if I'm low, I can add it. I'm not driving around with low oil, which is gonna, cause your timing chain to go bad premature. Not your timing chain, but timing chain tensioner and your guides and stuff like that. But oh yeah, and actually your timing chain, the holes in the chain itself will elongate, which is what people call stretching. The timing chain stretching, but that's not actually what's happening. The holes just elongate, which makes it longer. So it's kind of the same thing, I guess. But that leads to the next thing you want to do. Number one is the oil. Number two is replace your timing chain. If you buy a Mini Cooper, the N14, and you don't know when the timing chain was replaced, or say even if you do know when the timing chain was replaced, but you don't know who replaced it, or like if it wasn't done at like a dealership or a really reputable mechanic, a lot of times they'll put a cheap timing chain in there, and I wouldn't trust it because I've actually bought a cheap timing chain and I installed it on my car when I first got it. And if you watch my timing chain video, you can see me removing that timing chain to put in a good one. And I got the good one. It's a cryogenic one that's it's OEM, but it's been treated with cryogenically or whatever. And that's the way I'd go. Any race timing chain. And companies like Speed Tech Motorsports have them for really cheap. They're the whole kit. It's like $225 or something like that. It's basically for nothing. I would say that's well worth it. And I think I got mine at Detroit Tuned, if I'm not mistaken. I think I paid a little bit more than $225. I think it was $229 or something. But Speed Tech Motorsport wasn't around yet, I don't think, or their website wasn't up yet. Okay, the third thing, after the oil changes in the timing chain, would be your carbon buildup. You're taking care of your carbon buildup. You're going to want to go down and get it either carbon blasted or do what I did. I had my head off at one time when I replaced my valves, so I just my exhaust valves. So I went ahead and I cleaned my intake valves when I had the head off. So you could do it that way, which is a lot more work, or you can have it carbon blasted, or you can carbon blast it yourself. Not carbon blasted, but walnut blast to get the carbon off. And then once you've done that, you're going to want to do some preventative maintenance to keep it from happening as soon or at all. You could do catch cans. In fact, I have a video on dual catch cans. That'll do a pretty good job. In fact, I looked at my valves pretty recently and they still look pretty clean. And but now I'm only running one catch can. I'm running it, in fact, I'll show you right now. I have the catch can just, running off of this PCV valve right here. And before, I had this one that was running around the back, and it was mounted, right next to here. But the reason I took it off was because these hoses just kept coming off. And there was nothing I could do about it, so I just went ahead and changed it. All right, so I have mine running off of the PCV valve right here on the intake side. The other one you want to run comes off of here. that's when you run for, when your car is idling. This is when it's open. But like I said, I'm mounting mine right here. But if you watch my catch can video, it actually shows you how that was ran. But the reason you want to run them both is because, like I said, this one is open when it's idling, and this one's open when you're driving. So you want to catch the oil during both of those situations. Okay, so even better than the oil catch cans is going to be methanol injection. The oil catch cans, all they do, they keep oil from getting on the valves, but it doesn't keep all the oil from getting on the valves. The methanol injection actually cleans the valves after the oil gets on them. So, methanol injection is just a better way to go. Plus, it cools your intake air temperature. So, in the summertime, when your car, you'll feel your car, like I live out in the mountains, when you're going up hills and stuff in the summertime, you can feel that you have way less power in the summer than you do, especially when you're stage 3. You have a lot less power than you did, in the wintertime. Another thing it does is it boosts your octane, so you'll have more power that way, less chance of detonation. It's just a good thing all the way around. If you can do methanol injection on a turbo engine, it's just, especially with direct port injection, it's just a good idea. Okay, so the fourth thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to replace your thermostat housing and your water pipe, crossover pipe, depending on what you want to call it. It's the pipe that goes from your water pump to your thermostat housing. No point in replacing one and not the other, because you have to take the thermostat housing off anyway in order to replace the water pipe. So it does make sense to do it one. But a lot of people break the water pipe when they're doing thermostat housing. So definitely, even if for some reason you're not going to do your water pipe, you're going to want to own one when you do your thermostat housing, because if you break it, you're not going to be able to drive your car. But Speed Tech Motorsports would be the place I'd look for that. You want to get a good quality one. Don't go cheap on especially your thermostat housing. You want to get a good quality thermostat housing. I wouldn't go any less than OEM. I have videos on how to, I have a video on how to install the thermostat housing and the water pipe, and I also have a video on how to bleed the coolant system once you're done doing that. So, it's real easy. Just go ahead and do that and watch those videos. But the fifth thing that you're going to want to do to make your N14 engine more reliable is you're going to want to change your water pump. Your water pump. The OEM one, it's just it's not a really good design from the factory. Well, the original OEM one, they've updated it, so if you buy an OEM one now, it's actually a lot better. So if you get an OEM one now, it'll, like I said, it'll be a lot better. In fact, that's what I have on my car. Again, I would just go check out Speed Tech Motorsports. Again, they're gonna have they're gonna have pretty good prices. I think I got mine at, I want to say Way Motorworks, but I'm not 100% sure. I bought a lot of stuff from them, so I think that's probably where I got it. But yeah, they have it. A couple places have it, but again, on that, you want to go at least as quality as OEM. You don't want to cheap out on that, because it's a pretty easy job. I have a video on how to do it. There's two different ways you can change it. You can change it from the top of the engine, or from the engine bay, or you can change it from the wheel well. I chose to do it through the wheel well. You don't have to take your motor mounts off or anything like that. You just basically just reach up there and take it out and change it. Yeah, so the water pump is the fifth thing that you want to change. Okay, the sixth thing that you're going to want to do is either rebuild or replace your vacuum pump. That is I don't know if that's really, it should be number 6. It's pretty important, because if it goes bad, it's catastrophic engine failure. So I would do that around the same time you do your timing chain. If you reach under where the vacuum pump is and feel under there and you feel any oil, it's leaking. So at the very least, you need to rebuild it. But take it apart. In fact, I have a video on how to replace it and a video on how to rebuild it. But if you watch the video on how to rebuild it, you can see I take mine apart, and you look inside there, and there's marks in it because mine was old. It wasn't really that bad. I actually ended up running it for probably 2 weeks after I rebuilt it, and it was fine. I didn't get any oil leaks or anything like that, but I replaced it with a brand new OEM one. Again, that's something, definitely go OEM. Don't get any, I would not get any other one that isn't OEM, except for the rebuild kit, because you can't buy a rebuild kit from Mini. There's only one company, I can't think of it, but if you watch the video, I tell you the part number in the video. So yeah, if yours is rebuildable, just rebuild it. If not, replace it. Okay, number 7 is going to be, it's a pretty big job, but you're going to want to replace your exhaust valves. And you could wait until something happens like I did, or you could just do it. But you're going to want to get exhaust valves that can handle high temperature. I don't think OEM is even good enough for this. That's why that's a big issue with these N14 engines. I think it's even an issue with the N18 engines. The exhaust valves are just too close to the turbo. So, well, I'll show you. That was exhaust valve number 3. And it got too hot and it burnt. And I was about, 60 miles from home when that happened. And, my Mini's awesome. I wasn't stranded. I actually drove home. And because I didn't know this was the problem. This was before I even had a scan tool when this happened. This was actually one of the very first things I did to my car, which actually inspired me to start this channel, was I burnt this valve, and figuring out what went wrong with it. I did so much work to my car. I was like, man, everyone says these cars are really hard to work on. And I think they're wrong. It's actually really easy to work on these cars, as long as you don't do all the stuff that everyone says you need to do, like take the front end of the car off every time you work on it. I've never taken the front end of my car off. And as you can see, this is one of my valves, so you know I've had the head off my car. And I have videos on how to take the exhaust manifold off, what you have to do to take the head off. And I've done all that stuff without taking the front end off the car. So these cars are not hard to work on. But that's the point of this video. In fact, if you look on SpeedTech Motorsports, they have the high temperature valves, and they're the ones that I would recommend. You don't want to go cheap on your exhaust valves or any valves. If you replace them with the best ones you can afford, because that way you only have to do it once. You won't have to do it twice, and it's a big job. You don't want to have to take your engine apart to replace your valves for a second time. And when you're replacing your valves, do your valve seals and your valve guides. Do it all. Don't cheap out on that, because like I said, if you, especially your valve seals, because if you put your engine back together and you start driving it, almost immediately you might notice that you have smoke coming out of your tailpipe. After you've been driving for a while, you're like, what the hell? That wasn't the thing. That wasn't happening before. And it's because your valve seals went bad, and now you got to take your car apart again to replace them. And their valve seals aren't that expensive, and if you're doing your valve stems, you have the car apart anyway. It's not a hard job, so you might as well do it then. Okay, number 8 is you're going to want to change your oil filter housing gaskets, and also you're going to want to, at the same time, you're going to want to replace your oil feed line for your turbo. That's this thing right here. You could replace it with an OEM one like this, or you can do a steel braided one. I went with the steel braided, but it's better, looks cooler too. But that's a major thing that leaks on these cars. And that was, in fact, my very first video. If you want to see a video that's not very good, you can watch my video on how to replace these. My first, actually it's my third video I actually get into actually replacing it, but my first video I'm just telling you that I'm going to replace it for some reason. And then, but yeah, replace these. That's number 8. Okay, so number 9 is going to be to replace your valve cover and valve cover gasket. The reason you need to replace your valve cover is because the PCV system is actually built into the valve cover. There's just no way to replace it without replacing the whole thing. Also, the gasket is a common leak on these cars. So obviously, if you're going to replace one, replace them both. Again, that's another thing. If you go on eBay and you buy a cheap valve cover, I've done it. In fact, I have one sitting in the garbage over here. I put it on my car and it didn't work. It didn't line up right. I had a huge oil leak right away. In fact, after I bought it, I posted a picture of it on Instagram, and someone told me, like, oh, I've done that and it didn't work. And I was like, you know, it's good. That was probably doesn't happen to everybody, or they wouldn't be selling them all the time. So I still went and did it. And after I put it on my car, I went and started my car, but I had an oil leak immediately. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went and just, I put my OEM one back on. I was replacing mine just to replace it. I didn't have an issue. But I'm actually going to replace it again eventually, just to replace it again. But I will definitely not cheap out. I will buy an OEM equivalent and not some eBay off-brand or Amazon off-brand valve cover. I might even go eventually with the RPM powered billet aluminum one that doesn't. It has a completely different type of PCV in it, and it's kind of like a catch can, I believe, inside the valve cover. But it's you'll never have to replace that one. You'll just have to replace the gaskets after you buy that one. So I'll probably end up going that route eventually. But yeah, that's number 9. Okay, so number 10 is going to be your high pressure fuel pump. I would go ahead and replace that well before you need to. I replaced mine almost when I first bought the car, and it's an expensive part. That's why I would say that you should just replace it and keep your good one. That way, if something happens and you know you have to replace it again, you already have it, and you don't have to come out of pocket on a bunch of money. When you know a car like this is my daily driver, and I need to have it to get to work tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but Monday. So yeah, I would just replace it. And one good thing about these, you know, the OEM one is $1,200 or $1,300. If you want to, if you have the money, I would definitely get the OEM one. That's a no-brainer. If you can afford the OEM one, get the OEM one. The one I have in my car right now, and the only reason I would even tell you to get this one is if you already have a good one like I do. I have an OEM one up in my cupboard. It's a brand from eBay, and it's called Oasis. I watched a video on how to install it, and there's a YouTuber, his name is Beamer Dude, has the same car as me, same color and everything. He installed it, and he was saying, oh, you know what, I've had this running and it's fine. And then I was like, you know, I trust that guy. I subscribed to his channel, so I wouldn't watch him if I didn't trust him. And you know, after he said, I clicked on his link in his description, and then I even went and read all the reviews, and all the reviews on it were good. I couldn't find any saying that these ones were bad. Like all the other ones that are like made in China and stuff are no good. I believe this one might even be made in Germany. It's probably made with Chinese parts, but anyway, it works. I'm stage 3. I was OEM at the time. I'm stage 3 now, and it's flawless. And it's been running since right before I did my valves, so it's probably been close to a year. and I haven't had any issues. And I've been stage 3 since, well, you can see my video on when I installed my stage 3. Whenever I uploaded that, probably the night before, or no, probably that same night is probably when I was stage 3. So it's definitely a good quality fuel pump, and I would recommend it if you can't afford an OEM one. And number 11 is going to be your diverter valve. There's so many different options with your diverter valve. You can replace it with the new OEM one because they've upgraded them. They're better now. If you're going to stay, you know, stock power, you might as well. I have the Go Fast Bits DV Plus on my car, and I absolutely love it. And that's what I would recommend that you do, even with stock power. What it does is, like I said, I live up in the hills, and when you're driving, you know, sometimes, you know, you're on rolling roads like this, a lot of times you have to downshift just to, you know, get the right RPMs to go up a hill if you're not driving that fast. And with the DV Plus, a lot of times when I used to have to downshift out of 5th and put it in 4th to go up a hill before I installed it, now I can just leave it in 5th because it keeps your boost, even when you let off the gas, it keeps your boost up higher. You don't have as much pressure drop, and it's just it's all around better. It doesn't give you any more power, and you won't hear anything because it's also recirculating. People always ask me to post a video on what it sounds like. It sounds like a stock diverter valve. That's why I haven't posted a video. But yeah, but it performs very well. If anything ever does, well, if you want one that sounds different, I would go with the forged diverter. I guess it's slash blow-off valve. You can either do I believe you can either do recirculating or vent to air, or a mixture of the both, or something like that. If anything ever went wrong with my DV Plus, I would definitely go for the forged one, because I've never heard of anybody having any issues with those. So yeah, that would be that'd be what I would do. But the DV Plus is definitely great. The OEM one, if you know, if you're not into driving fast or tracking your car or do anything like that, the OEM one is going to be plenty for you, especially if you don't live in the hills, if you just live on flat ground. But yeah, definitely replace your diverter valve though, because it's the OEM one, the original one before they upgraded it, it's not that great. It's like got little rubbery pieces in it that can tear, and they'll give you problems. So definitely get that replaced. Before I forget to mention it, I have a Facebook group. It's called Mini Cooper DIY. It's not just for N14s, it's for every Mini Cooper. I actually plan on buying as many Mini Coopers as I possibly can, just so I can work on them in my videos, and you know, show you guys how to work on everything. But the Mini Cooper DIY Facebook group already has quite a few members that a lot of them already are working. A lot of people are there because they're asking questions, but a lot of people are there answering questions. In fact, I've learned stuff from people on that, because I don't have a convertible. Somebody asked about a convertible and got their answer within like an hour or two, how to fix it. So it's a good group, and if you work on your own car, which if you're watching my YouTube channel, I'm assuming that you work on your own car, because you know my channel's mostly about how to work on your Mini Cooper. So I would definitely check out that Facebook group. Again, the name of the Facebook group is Mini Cooper DIY. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.